At first, I didn't think it was real. I woke up to this blinding light, and I was transported to another place. Pluto TV! Then I heard a voice.
Come with me if you want to live.
There were thousands of movies and shows, and they were all free.
The truth is our secret.
It's just so beautiful.
On Pluto TV, free streaming of Terminator 2, Fringe, Arrow, The 100, and The X-Files may cause excitement, loss of sleep, and sudden belief in extraterrestrials. No credit cards or alien encounters necessary. Pluto TV. Stream now, pay never.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan. Tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
The big game commercials are basically must-see TV. This year, Elf Cosmetics went all out with an absurdly funny telenovela called Melissa. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Nicholas Gonzalez, Itati Cantoral, and Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil. The Elf Glow Reviver Lip Oil is an ultra-glossy tinted lip oil that nourishes, hydrates, and enhances your lips' natural color.
Watch the full episode of their new Elf novela on soyunbaño.com.
Ever wonder why so many people regain weight after stopping a GLP-1? Up to 40% of the weight lost can come from lean muscle. This weakens the body, slows metabolism, and makes it easier to put the pounds back on, creating a cycle of dependency. Prolon's 5-day fasting-mimicking diet offers a drug-free way to maintain results and support long-term metabolic health. In just 5 days, it activates fasting pathways to burn fat, protect muscle, and rejuvenate cells, all while letting you enjoy real food. Get 15% off plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe at prolonlife.com/iHeart. That's prolonlife.com/iHeart.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to One Thing Trump Did, exclusively available on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Each week on this podcast, we are looking at one thing President Trump did, since there is so much happening. We try to break things down in the same rational, nonpartisan, factual way we do on the Middle. In this episode, we're looking at Trump's targeting of law firms. It started with an executive order against the storied law firm Covington and Burling at the end of February, stripping its lawyers of security clearances, among other things, in retribution for providing pro bono legal services to Jack Smith, who was prosecuting cases against Trump for the Justice Department. Then Trump went after Perkins Coie, which is challenging his order in court. He's also gone after Paul Weiss, which reached a settlement with the president. Then he targeted Jenner and Block, Wilmer Hale, and reached another deal with a law firm known in shorthand as Skadden. Big picture, the president is seeking retribution against law firms for representing his perceived political enemies. Some are fighting back, some are settling, and the entire legal profession is in a bit of a state of panic. Here's the president speaking last week.
I just think that the law firms have to behave themselves, and we've proven that. We have others that want to make a settlement also. They, having to do with the election and other things, they behave very badly, very wrongly, and I appreciate the one, these are the biggest firms, and they all came back realizing that they did wrong.
So what does this mean for the legal profession and the rule of law in America? Joining me now is former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. He served under President George W. Bush from 2005 to 2007. Alberto Gonzales, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So what do you think, just first of all, of what the president is doing here?
Well, I'm going to differ with you just a bit in terms of you keep referring to retribution. It certainly appears to be retribution. I guess if I had a conversation with him, I would ask him, is this solely based on retribution? But it may also be a calculated way to minimize the effectiveness of challenges to what he's doing as president today, because many of these are being challenged. They're going to be challenged in court, which means law firms have to be involved. And so this may be his way of handicapping or hurting those firms and thus making the challenges against his policies less effective. So it could be that. I don't know the man. I've only met him once. I'm inclined to give people the benefit of the doubt, but I would have to admit it certainly appears to be retribution. And I think it's... First of all, it's petty. And secondly, I think it's dangerous given the enormous power the President of the United States, every president wields. And I think to do something like this for petty purposes, as I said, I think is dangerous.
For people who are not law school graduates, why is this such a big deal to, even if it's not retribution, even if it's just to try to handicap some of these law firms from being able to represent anybody who's suing him and trying to stop his agenda? Why is it a big deal for the President of the United States to be specifically signing executive orders against some of the biggest law firms in the country?
Well, I mean, because it is the law firms that vindicate the rights of every American citizen, of every American company. Going to court requires, particularly on difficult legal issues, the assistance, the guidance, the expertise of law firms. And if they're unwilling to do that because they're going to be scared of making the administration angry, I think that's a dangerous place to be. That's not the America, certainly not the America that I know. I think that lawyers and law firms have a special obligation to protect the rule of law. The rule of law is what gives us predictability in our lives. It makes sure that our property rights are respected, that our personal privileges are protected, and all of us play a role in advancing the rule of law. For example, simply serving on a jury, that advances the rule of law. Or when you vote, that advances the rule of law. It just happens to be that lawyers, and I happen to be a lawyer, plays a critical role with respect to protecting the rule of law. And if lawyers aren't stepping up and speaking out against these kinds of attacks, I think that's disappointing and dangerous. I must confess some level of disappointment in the silence that I'm hearing amongst a lot of firms. Obviously, we're seeing some pushback most recently, and I think that is a good thing. But it's something that I think all Americans should be watching very, very carefully, because you and I may be in need of the services of a lawyer someday, and the government shouldn't be in the business of telling us who we should or should not hire to represent us in court.
What do you think of the firms like Paul Weiss and Skadden that have settled the matter to try to just stop the bleeding, I guess, but also upset a lot of their employees and others?
I don't know the financial situation of these firms. I'm assuming they're quite profitable. I don't know what kind of pressure they got from key clients. So let me put that aside. But as a general matter, I too am disappointed, because I don't think it is going to any kind of pressure from the administration is going to go away. I think it will encourage the administration to do this to other firms. I think it'll raise the price of appeasing the administration, and so I tend to lean towards being in support of those firms who have filed suit to oppose the president. The rhetoric from the judges tell me that they're equally appalled at these kinds of tactics by the administration. Now, it remains to be seen, of course, when the litigation is ultimately concluded, what the final outcome is going to be. But certainly, I think the judges who've had an opportunity to look at the situation based on the pleadings, have some very serious questions about the actions of this administration. And again, for me, one of the most disappointing aspects of this is that if in fact this is simply about retribution, I mean, get over it. It's over. He's been elected president. We got a lot of important things that we need the president's attention on. And to me, this simply confirms that perhaps President Trump lacks the integrity, certainly lacks the maturity to serve as president of the United States.
For those firms that are suing and have taken this to court, what kind of case do you think they have?
I think that they have a very good case. And I equate it to all the lawyers who worked on the January 6th cases and were fired, okay? Because they did that. They did their job. That's what they're supposed to do at the Department of Justice. They were successful at it. And what's the reward they get? They are betrayed by their government. And so I think that is the ultimate betrayal as far as I'm concerned. And I think for the firms, I think that the pressure that's being put on them because of a relationship they had with someone the president did not like, or because they were involved in litigation in which the outcome was adverse to the president, I think that's just wrong. If in fact he lost, it's because he didn't have, the law was not on his side. And the firms should not be penalized for simply doing their job and doing it well.
These firms are businesses, of course. One of the reasons they need security clearances is so they can serve their clients if they've got cases involving the government. They've also got to attract top lawyers. Are you seeing an effect on where young lawyers want to work because of what these firms are doing and how they're handling this?
I'm not aware of any negative impact. The truth of the matter is, I think most law students, the first responsibility or obligation or goal they have as they approach graduation is to simply get some kind of legal job. I don't know whether or not there's how much interest we have in our students in terms of going to work in New York or Washington or Los Angeles for some of these major firms. We obviously have some interest, but I think that law students across the country are paying attention. They're paying attention to what pressure law firms are feeling from the administration, but they're paying more attention to how the law firms are responding to that pressure. It says a lot about the culture of the firm in terms of how they're going to respond to this kind of pressure, which I think is going to tell all our graduates and certainly graduates around the country, well, is this the kind of firm, are these the kind of individuals that you want to work with? And maybe it is, maybe it's not. Listen, I was a partner at a big firm in Houston a lifetime ago. I left because I wanted to do something that I thought might be more satisfying. So it's good to make money, but you have a lifetime to make money. And the truth of the matter is, there are a lot of other things you can do with a law degree besides working at a firm and making a good salary.
One former judge that we reached out to said that she felt, because of this, like her entire profession was crumbling around her. Do you feel that way, or have you spoken to other lawyers who feel that way?
I wouldn't say crumbling around me. No, again, we're seeing firms now suing, fighting back, and there are a lot of law firms in this country. So I'm not willing to go so far as to say that things are crumbling, but we need to pay attention. And it's not just about this issue. As I travel the country and I talk to a lot of people, and they ask me, they say, "Well, what can I do? I'm just so and so." And the thing that I always urge them is, you have to pay attention. Keep up with what's going on, and don't just rely upon one source. Consult multiple sources. You need to be informed, and in terms of what you can actually do, try to think more locally as opposed to globally or across America, because you're right. And the normal citizen really can't do much about what's going on in Washington, but they can certainly do something about what's going on in their neighborhood, within their own family, within their city or state. And so they need to kind of focus on where they can make a difference, because every American citizen has a voice And from my perspective, I think every American citizen should be using that voice to express their concerns to the extent they have any.
Well, stay with us. We're going to be right back with more from former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales on One Thing Trump Did. We'll be right back.
It's an Olympics you'll never forget. Prime time in Milan. The moments.
Chloe Kim with the gold medal flex.
The stars.
Ilya Malinin.
Out of this world.
The spectacle from beautiful northern Italy with very special guests every night of the Olympics. Experience the world's biggest show. Prime time in Milan, tonight 8/7 Central on NBC and Peacock.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Welcome to the A Building. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba. It's 1969. Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr. had both been assassinated, and Black America was at a breaking point. Rioting and protests broke out on an unprecedented scale.
In Atlanta, Georgia, at Martin's alma mater, Morehouse College, the students had their own protest. It featured two prominent figures in Black history, Martin Luther King Sr. and a young student, Samuel L. Jackson.
To be in what we really thought was a revolution. I mean, people were dying.
1968, the murder of Dr. King, which traumatized everyone.
The FBI had a role in the murder of a Black Panther leader in Chicago.
This story is about protest. It echoes in today's world far more than it should, and it will blow your mind.
Listen to the A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Ryder Strong, and I have a new podcast called The Red Weather.
It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea.
In 1995, my neighbor, Anna Trainer, disappeared from a commune.
It was hard to wrap your head around. It was nature and trees and praying and drugs.
So no, I am not your guru.
And back then, I lied to my parents, I lied to police, I lied to everybody.
There were years, Ryder, where I could not say your name.
I've decided to go back to my hometown in Northern California, interview my friends, family, talk to police, journalists, whomever I can, to try to find out what actually happened.
Isn't it a little bit weird that they obsess over hippies in the woods and not the obvious boyfriend?
They have had this case for 30 years.
I'll teach you sons of to come around here and my wife. Boom, boom.
This is The Red Weather. Listen to The Red Weather on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to One Thing Trump Did, exclusively on the Middle podcast feed. I'm Jeremy Hobson. This episode, we're talking about President Trump's targeting of a number of big law firms that have represented or aided his perceived political enemies in the past. I'm joined by former Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. Alberto Gonzales, one of the things I remember about one of our founding fathers, John Adams, is that before he was president, as a lawyer, he represented British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre, because that's what we do in this country. Everyone has a right to representation. What does it mean for the president to go after lawyers who represented people on the other side of a case that he was in?
Well, as I said at the outset, I mean, what he's trying to do is limit the number of great lawyers or good lawyers that can take positions, represent clients in opposition to what he wants to accomplish or wants to do. And in a republic like ours, I think that's very, very dangerous. The President of the United States obviously wields a great deal of power in our country under our Constitution. And he obviously has the discretion to exercise that power as he sees fit. But one of the great things about the rule of law also exists in addition to protecting your rights and your property. It exists to check abuses of power. And we want to make sure that the most powerful office in the world, that the decisions made there are always going to be based on what is best for this country, not what is based on political or personal gains of the individual who sits in that office. And so that is extremely important as far as I'm concerned, is providing a check on abuse of power.
Speaking of power, how powerful do you think these law firms are in the grand scheme of our politics? Are they as powerful as, say, the big banks?
Oh, I don't know if I'm qualified to offer an opinion as to whether or not law firms are as powerful as the big banks. Obviously, the rule of law, without the rule of law, you have no America. You have no democracy. On the other hand, obviously economics, finance is a very important, commerce is a very important part of who we are as a country, and of the opportunities that are afforded to most, if not all, Americans. So those are very, very important and both very powerful as far as I'm concerned. I think if you had to press me, I'd probably say the banks. No, I'd take that back. As a lawyer, I feel compelled. I feel like I have to say that the rule of law is the most important.
Well, I asked that question because, consumers, all kinds of people have interaction with these big banks. We know that JP Morgan Chase and Citi and all the other Bank of America are huge players in our economy, but we may not know the names of these law firms, but they're very powerful as well.
Oh, there's no question about it. I mean, the big firms represent the biggest clients generally, and they employ a large number of lawyers. And so they can be very, very influential. There's no question about it. They get involved in elections, both national, state, and local. That can be very, very influential there. And obviously, from my perspective, I tell our students, we are teaching you to be the next generation of leaders. Certainly, throughout our history, many of the members of Congress have been lawyers. Many of our presidents have been lawyers. You don't have to become a lawyer and practice law when you earn a JD. You have the opportunity to do so many other things. I have led a state agency, a federal agency. I've been a judge. I've been in academia as a dean. I've been a counselor to a governor, a counselor to a president. I've been a partner at a major firm. I've done all of that with a JD.
What was your favorite one of those jobs?
Candidly, it was White House counsel. If you're an American citizen and going to work every day in the White House for a president you really admired, it just doesn't get any better than that. During a historic time, during 9/11, so it was a special time.
Right. You have said here that you believe that one of the main aims of what the president is doing here is to try to keep some of the best lawyers from attacking pieces of his agenda. But even if the firms do settle with the president or fight him in court and win, do you think that he's already done what he needs to do, which is essentially to bully them into not representing clients who might be opposed to him politically? Maybe.
We'll have to wait and see. You're right. I mean, it's certainly sends a message, a chilling message, some might say. But I don't think we really know the outcome of this battle, and I do consider it sort of a battle or a struggle. So I think I think as more and more firms step up, I think you're going to see the tide turn, and I think I'm at least hopeful that you'll see the efforts by the administration to cause fear in the halls of law firms around the country. I'm hopeful that those efforts will diminish.
There is so much going on right now. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we decided to create this podcast is just to try to focus on one thing each week and dig deep into it. But there's a lot that's going on that many people feel is outside the law, including sending migrants to a third country without any due process or deciding not to spend money that Congress has already appropriated. How does what's happening with the law firms play into that? And how do you feel about it as a former Attorney General of the United States?
Well, I think securing our borders, particularly in a post 9/11 world, we have to know who is in this country and why. So I'm certainly sympathetic. I'm with virtually every American that if you're a dangerous immigrant in this country unlawfully, you need to be deported. However, there are a number of immigrants that are here who may be undocumented, but there are contributors to society, contributors to Social Security. Without them, various economies like in agriculture, in hospitality, would be severely damaged. And so we've got to figure out a way to put them in some kind of legal status relatively quickly. There shouldn't be anybody in this country here in an unlawful status. We need to know who they are, what they're doing. And I think most Americans would agree with that. And all Americans I know would agree that if you're a dangerous, undocumented immigrant in this country, you should not be in this country. You should be deported. The danger, however, is making that determination. How do we know who you are and what risk you pose and what benefits you provide as an employee or as a worker, rather? And that's where you need to have, I think, an ordered process, not one that's rushed in the dead of night. People are rounded up and simply flown away. And I suspect most of the individuals, if not virtually all, who were rounded up a few weekends ago, deserve to be rounded up and deported, and they are dangerous. But there may be some that are not in that category, but we just don't know. And I think that's what the judge is trying to find out. He's not saying that the president doesn't have authority, because in the area of national security and in immigration and in foreign policy, the president's given a great deal of discretion by the Congress and by the courts. But what we don't know here yet are the facts. And the facts may bear out the righteousness of this action by this administration, but it may not with respect to one individual or two individuals or whatever. And that's what the judge is trying to ascertain. Okay, who have you got? What was the process? And I think we all would rest easier knowing that there was an ordered process, and the government is rounding up people that we don't want in this country and have no business being in this country.
But I guess the question would be about the due process that those people are due, whether they can be sent without any due process to a prison in El Salvador. And I ask you that, by the way, it's like the Trump administration is trying to figure out how far they can go. Are these people that they say are so bad that we've got to just treat them in this way and send them there? And I ask you that as somebody who, you think back to 2002 and when you were a White House lawyer arguing that the Geneva Conventions didn't apply to Al-Qaeda or Taliban detainees.
Yes, and the courts told us that, we had to provide a process to determine whether or not the person that we were focused on was in fact an enemy combatant, an enemy detainee. So they're all entitled to some kind of process. And I believe that is certainly true. And that's what the judge, I think, is trying to ascertain, is by simply knowing what the facts are with respect to each individual, that is going to provide a level of process that I think may meet or should meet constitutional muster.
Okay, let me just finally come back to the law firms and ask you. You said you think that they should be speaking up more. What would your advice to the big firms be right now?
I think my advice would be that the rule of law is being attacked, and that lawyers above anyone else in this country have an obligation to defend the rule of law. And law firms and lawyers should not be penalized for actions, for representations that they engaged in the past. And to penalize them is bad for the law firms and certainly bad for potential clients and the average American citizen, who should be able to decide who they want to hire to represent them in our legal system. That's what I would tell them. And sometimes there are things that are more important than the bottom line, and this may be one of those instances.
How far do you think the president is going to go with this?
I think he will go as far as we might possibly imagine until someone like the courts say, enough is enough. Again, in this space, the president's going to be afforded a great deal of discretion, but there have to be limits on that discretion because we're dealing with human beings. Some of those may be American citizens, and I'm reminded of that phrase that Sandra Day O'Connor provided in connection, I think, with the Hamdi case, that a state of war is not a blank check to the President of the United States when it comes to the rights of American citizens. And so the same would be true, that our immigration challenges is not a blank check with respect to the President's power in dealing with American citizens. You only know you're dealing with American citizens if, in fact, you provide them some level of due process so that we can ascertain who they are, and they have the ability to know what the charges may be against them and to respond, have an opportunity to respond before a neutral decision maker.
You mentioned Sandra Day O'Connor, former Supreme Court Justice. Do you think that these cases are going to make it all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States to decide whether what President Trump is doing is legal?
Oh, I think certainly some of them are going to make it to the Supreme Court. I don't know President Trump very well, but my sense is that he will test it, and he will want to know what is the ultimate limit of his authority in this space.
That is former U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thanks to you for listening to One Thing Trump Did. It was produced by Harrison Patino. Our next middle episode will be in your podcast feed later this week. We'll be asking you what can be done to improve legal immigration in this country. And if you like this podcast, please rate it wherever you get your podcasts. Tell your friends and sign up for automatic downloads. Our theme music was composed by Noah Haidu. I'm Jeremy Hobson. Talk to you soon.
You see it instantly. It's Coldwater Creek, the mark of exceptional workmanship and signature touches inspired by a Mountain West heritage. Distinctive styles created from quality fabrics, silhouettes perfected with just the right drape, feel-good fits offering ease of movement, and thoughtful details to elevate your look. Coldwater Creek's authenticity is embodied in every piece, embracing its confident spirit that carries through to today. Discover Coldwater Creek clothing, designed to fit your life the way you want. For a wardrobe you can count on season after season, visit coldwatercreek.com. Shop the new spring collection at 20% off $75 or more with code IHEART20.
Over the last couple years, didn't we learn that the folding chair was invented by Black people because of what happened in Alabama?
The Montgomery Brawl.
This Black History Month, the podcast Selective Ignorance with Mandy B unpacks Black history and culture with comedy, clarity, and conversations that shake the status quo. The Crown Act in New York was signed in July of 2019, and that is a bill that was passed to prohibit discrimination based on hairstyles associated with race. To hear this and more, listen to Selective Ignorance with Mandy B from the Black Effect Podcast Network on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
1969. Malcolm and Martin are gone. America is in crisis. And at Morehouse College, the students make their move.
These students, including a young Samuel L. Jackson, locked up the members of the Board of Trustees, including Martin Luther King Sr. It's the true story of protest and rebellion in Black American history that you'll never forget. I'm Hans Charles.
I'm Menelik Lumumba.
Listen to The A Building on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
14 years in prison for killing a young woman. A 15-year sentence for a crash that caused 3 deaths. 12 and a half years for killing a child and critically injuring her mother. All true stories, all caused by marijuana-impaired drivers. No matter what you tell yourself, if you feel different, you drive different. So, if you're high, just don't drive. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.